Alright, so I want to go through in this video something that some of you might already know about because you've been entrepreneurs before, and this is kind of like foundational basic knowledge that we learn about when we're first getting into the space of entrepreneurship. But I feel like the other thing you might probably not have heard before. So there's going to be definitely something in here that you can be taking note on, and it's going to be of value for you. And the first concept I want to go through is something you've probably seen before, but maybe not explained in the way that I'm going to, and that is what we call the cash flow quadrant. And so the cash flow quadrant is what Robert Kiyosaki in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he speaks about and he teaches, which is the four quadrants that we have of employee, we have self-employed, we have business owner, and we also have investor. Now, the way that he set up this cash flow quadrant, which is genius, is how it's not just about having a measure of success, which is around money. It's also about having a measure of success, which is around time. Because, if you're just somebody who has a lot of money, then you can be very rich. But if you have a lot of time, then that's when you become wealthy. Now, again, like I said in one of the videos about commitment, you don't want to necessarily become a person who is thinking that they can be in the investor quadrant from the very beginning and have that money and time. Because really, it is through commitment, which is restricting the freedom of action, to how you're going to be able to get the maximum amount of freedom in the future. And if you're not willing to pay a price at the beginning, then you're never going to be able to truly become an investor. It's just never going to happen. If it was like that, everybody would be an investor right now who's in entrepreneurship. But that's just not the case. 90% of people who go into entrepreneurship fail. And there's a reason why. It's because they don't necessarily go through the cash flow quadrant in the order that they're supposed to. So with the cash flow quadrant, you are supposed to start as an employee, no matter where you are. If you start as an employee, there are benefits that come from this, in that your organization can provide you with a system and with structure that will teach you the skill sets that you need to be able to learn in order to go out and do something yourself. And so when you have those skill sets yourself as an employee, now you're going to get paid. You get paid a salary, but it's not the place where you want to stay. This here is a short-term solution for a long-term problem, but it is still a solution. So stay here, get all the training you can, which is free training as an employee. And then once you've got that free training as an employee, they might teach you how to set your schedule. They might teach you how to show up on time. They might teach you how to do skills within business, such as marketing, sales, or whatever, depending on where you work at. They're going to teach you certain skills. Utilize that, go to the next place, get your free training, get your free training, get your free training. And then once you've got all of that free training, you can develop the confidence, because no longer are you going to feel like I'm not good enough to become a self-employed individual. Once you've got that confidence, you can transition to becoming somebody who is self-employed. And somebody who is self-employed is somebody who no longer has a job, but now you own a job. Now it is your responsibility yourself to put in the system, to be working the hours, to be doing all the management in terms of your profits, in terms of your payroll, all of these things. So it's actually more work, it's more responsibility. And that means that you're gonna have to work more hours. So in the time aspect, it looks like you're the least successful out of all of them. But with the money, now that starts to go up. So in the employee quadrant, it's not good for time and it's not good for money. But in the self-employed quadrant, it's actually worse for time, and it's for money, it's better. But the way that I would view it is not that it is truly worse for time, because all of that time that you're putting in is time that you get to get back in the future. So it is a great investment to be making of your time when you're in that self-employed quadrant. Then when you make the next transition, you make a transition towards becoming a business owner. And when you're a business owner, now you don't necessarily own a job, you own a system. And so just like when you first started out and you were an employee, you were gaining value by getting a system as well as getting paid. That's a great win-win scenario for the business owner and for the employee. But when you become a business owner, you are just a different entity within that relationship, and it's no longer about you getting paid and putting in the time and effort and money. Now you also get paid, and you get paid more than you did as an employee, but you get paid because you own a system. Not because you own just a job, you own multiple jobs for people who are becoming either self-employed or employees, and you own a system as well as those things. You own a system, and it is that system that's valuable. And now you have what we call leverage. You have maximum leverage because you can leverage other people's time. You can even leverage other people's money if they're self-employed, but you can leverage other people's assets and other people's resources so that you can have more productivity, more output. And the key difference between being self-employed and being a business owner, because some people who say that they own businesses are not really true business owners because they don't own a system, right? They don't own a system. They're just self-employed people who are the only person in their businesses. And if they were to step out of their business, then the business wouldn't continue. It would literally stop overnight. So that's not a business. That's you being self-employed. You might even have people in your business or in your organization, and they're not really working, not doing anything. And if you stepped away, then the business would fail. Again, you don't really have a business if that was to happen. The other quadrant, the final one, is where you become an investor. And as an investor, this is the pinnacle part of your success, where you are now able to simply turn money into more money, right? Just by putting in that money into an investment, into an asset, then it will grow over time in value, and you get to cash out in the form of dividends, in the form of profits, and that's how you get to make your money. Now, what you want to start thinking about is studying the best investors of the world. When you're first starting out, it might not be super important to go into the details of it, but just know some of the basics, right? So just know some of the numbers of what do the best investors in the world make. And if you look at Warren Buffett, for example, who is the best investor that's ever that's on this planet right now, he's the number one. You look at his portfolio, and on average, he's making about 20% returns. Only 20%. And so where a lot of people, mess up is, again, it's that mindset of I'm going to become an investor from the very beginning. If you become an investor from the very beginning, then you only get to make 20% as being a reliable amount. And if you think about where you first start out and you're getting paid paychecks of £1,000, £2,000 per month, 20% on top of that is like £200 per month. That is not an amount that's going to get you financial freedom of the £10,000 to £20,000 per month. And so if you're trying to get £10,000 to £20,000 per month by putting in 1,000, then the amount that you're looking to get is more like gambling as opposed to investing, because it's way more than someone like Warren Buffett, who was the best investor of the world. Now, this is not to say that you cannot do what we call trading, because trading is a little bit different, where it still requires you put in time and effort to be able to master your skill sets and eventually have a system that can hold other people within that as a business. So trading is different, but understand with trading, it's going to require that you go through the same cash flow quadrant in this manner. So that's a little bit of value that I can give around the cash flow quadrant. And then the other side of it that you might not have heard before is what we call the 3 types of ways that you can earn money. So we have number 1 thing is money 1, M1, M2, and M3. Money 1, money 2, money 3. The way that it works is that money 1 is where you are part of the 97% of people who simply trade their time for money. So that's everybody on the other side of the cash flow quadrant, the employees, the self-employed individuals. And when you're trading your time for money, because that's a finite resource, there's only so much money that you're able to earn because you only have so much time. So that's not where you want to stay. But 97% of people get stuck here because they're unwilling to, pay their freedom in to go to the next levels. So with the money 1, that's where the majority of people lie. And in order to step up, you got to become the minority, where in the money 2, you are now trading your money for more money. And this is what business owners do. This is what investors do. They trade their money for money. They trade their money to own a system. They trade their money to have assets. So this is money 2. But the absolute pinnacle is where the investors are in that quadrant, where they have multiple streams of income. And multiple streams of income can actually be within one business. It doesn't have to be within multiple businesses. It's just that, when they're having multiple streams of income, it means that if one part of the business, isn't necessarily doing well, then it could be that another part of the business is where they have that different stream that is not all the eggs in one basket. Because at that level, that's when you want to start protecting the assets and the streams of income a little bit more. At the beginning, you cannot afford to have multiple streams of income, because you are never going to be able to get that amount enough back in abundance to be able to truly cash out and have that financial freedom that you'd be looking for to truly be in the investor quadrant. And from that 20% gains, you're getting, minimum £2,000 per month or £20,000 per month. So you just got to look at it from the numbers. And that's where the key of intellect comes in, and being able to see the numbers as opposed to seeing the emotions that it make you feel to, you know, get in and like go from £200 to 200,000 overnight from a lottery ticket, because that is the lottery mindset. So you got to get out of that mindset and think, how can I transition from the lowest part of the quadrant, cash flow quadrant? If you're not in the quadrant right now, how can I get into the quadrant and then go through the levels? How can I go from money 1, money 2, money 3? And take inventory where you're at right now and think, what is the next place that I've got to focus on getting to? Why am I not already there yet? And you'll find that the reasons that you're not there are going to be very similar to everybody's reasons as to why they're not there, because it's all the same. So yeah, if you want to speak a little bit more with me about that, we can go through it in certain coaching calls, the group coaching calls, for example. But that's like foundational stuff when it comes to looking at your financial success. So definitely take a look at it. If you haven't already read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, 100% study that book. It is the book that's helped probably more people go from paychecks to profits and regular employees to millionaires. Like, that is the #1 book that everybody recommends that you start out with. I've interviewed a lot of people who are 6, 7, 8 to 9 figure earners, and they all agree that Rich Dad Poor Dad is the one that you really want to study, as if it's your Bible. So make sure you study that as well, and you'll understand this concept a lot more. But thanks for watching the video, and we'll go on to the next one as well. I'll see you there.